Today we're going to talk about the marital home. A lot of parties facing divorce will deal with this issue. And any couple who have been married and who own a home together are going to have to make the decision on, are they going to sell the home? Is one party going to keep it? How are they going to give the other party their respective interest? So these are issues to consider, and today we are joined by Melissa Evans with Guild Mortgage. She's a long-standing friend of mine. It's very fun to have her here with us, and she's going to answer some of the common questions and just give us some information that'll help you how to best navigate this issue as you face your divorce. So first question, Melissa, if a couple is getting divorced and they decide they're going to sell their home, any tips on that point?
Well, typically when selling a home, you would want to think about your situation with your spouse. Like, is it a positive, or is it negative? So what I recommend sometimes is to maybe, when contemplating selling a home, talk to realtors. See, maybe it could be one or more realtors that you want to talk to and consult with, just based on finding out how much the home is worth, looking at the market to see what's available if you do decide to make that move. And if there's possibility that you could be helped out with commissions, because it is expensive to get divorced and it costs everybody, a lot of money. So those would be, when selling, my ultimate tips.
Okay. So alternatively, which is where Melissa comes in, if couples are in a situation where they've decided that they're going to refinance the home, usually this comes up where one party is going to keep the home and the other party is just interested in getting their portion of the equity. What is the first tip that you would give to couples that come to you wanting a refinance?
Sure. Well, typically, there's always the question that people ask when it comes to the mortgage. If I'm getting a divorce, can I get my spouse off the mortgage? And it's not as easy as it sounds. So we have a few options like that we look at in advance. So number one misconception is that you can just maybe talk to your bank or servicer and say, can I just take my spouse off the mortgage? But that's not possible because you've both been obligated on the debt. So we have to look at the option of the refinance. Now, lenders do have a lot of compassion for people who are in this situation. So we treat it as a rate and term refinance versus a cash out of equity refinance, which typically in the regular market are considered to be almost the same.
Okay.
So
what you're saying is they can't just come to you and get their former spouse's name off the mortgage, but they do get some breaks. So explain to us a little bit more about what that means.
Okay, so sometimes underwriters will look at things and it'll be a little bit easier qualification process. The other thing that may happen as well is we'll let them go up to a higher loan to value. As far as taking out more of that equity, you won't be restricted. And depending on how much equity is left, we talk about also splitting the fees between the parties to make sure that it's equally split, or sometimes one person will maybe pay more than the other, and it actually kind of helps us, make everything equal, and then allows one person to be able to maintain and stay in the property.
Okay, so if someone comes to you and is seeking a refinance, it's understood that this individual is now going to be qualifying for that home on their own separate income, because upon divorce, the parties are dividing households. And so all of a sudden, this person seeking to refinance is now going to be looking at qualifying for this home on their own. What tips or information would you have to share on that point, Melissa?
Okay. Well, it's really important when going through a divorce, especially when you are looking at separating the household and having two different incomes. It's important to know what maybe the next step is for your income. Will you be receiving alimony? Will you be receiving child support? Because lenders, the way they look at it is you actually have to receive that income for 6 months before you can use it. So if you're going to be taking on a higher obligation with a payment, it's great to talk to your attorney and work out those details with your spouse in advance so that you know what the obligation will be going forward for you. And you'll also be able to know that you need a timeline in which to satisfy that requirement for the lender, because the lender will make you show receipts that you've received the income for 6 months before you can actually use it to qualify for the new loan.
Okay, so essentially there is that to understand that while you're dividing households, your income can turn on not just your actual income from your job. So what Melissa has just said, that the lenders will consider child support, alimony, as long as you have it in place for 6 months, and it's expected to be in place for longer than 3 years. And you can prove that to a prospective lender by showing them a copy of your decree. So the long and short of it is, getting divorced, you're going to face what to do with the marital home. And in certain situation, the parties will agree that one party can remain in the home. Sometimes that comes up in cases involving children where it's been decided the parties agree it's in the children's best interest to continue in the same home and have that stable environment. So the parties can come together to figure out how to get one party's name off of the loan, as well as the other person affording to refinance and qualify and be in the home on their own. Generally speaking, if the parties can't agree, the court will order it sold and you split accordingly. But just even hearing from Melissa today, it's good to know that if you can agree to something differently with your spouse, there are ways to qualify yourself and or just get the home refinanced, keeping you or the other party in the home if it works for your situation. So thank you for joining us today, Melissa.
Absolutely.
And if you'd like to speak further with us about your particular case, have any questions about divorce or just how the marital estate is divided, go to my website at jrlawgroup.com or give us a call. And always follow us on Instagram, and see you next week.